that was a good fight, a good test. I actually watched that fight in Brooklyn, but we were going for Mayweather for that night. So even though Zab is my man, I know Zab. I don't know him that well, but I always bump into him at the gym, and he's a cool brother. But it was a good fight. I think Zab's speed, him being a southpaw, him having good reflexes, that all that gave Mayweather problems early on until I think Mayweather had to switch his style up and just apply more pressure.
Well, I wouldn't say more switch his style up. I think, as we all know, Mayweather likes to wait 2, 3, 4 rounds, catch his time, and see what your movement is, so he can adjust to what he's going to do.
Right. Right. Well, I say switch his style up because when he was trying to box him from the outside, staying back, his timing was a little off. He couldn't really catch that timing. That was actually timing him better at that moment. So when I say switch his style up, I just mean just switch his approach up. It wasn't going to be a boxing match. He had to make it to a fight.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. I remember we was watching the 5th round. And I remember everybody, like I said, I was watching it in Brooklyn, and I know everyone would say, "Oh, he's doing that Brooklyn style." When Zab started, feeling himself, started doing the shoulder taps, by Brooklyn style, they're referring to what is our 52 blocks, or what people see 52 blocks as. What people remember, one of the techniques that was used was shoulder taps. I remember seeing cats do that when I was growing up. It would be like a fake out because it gets you to jump, to flinch.
Right.
At you.
Right. I think also one of the interesting things about it is whether you've seen it or you haven't seen it before, when it's being done in front of you, because your mind, especially at that level, because you're doing boxing at a high level, when you see something that doesn't fit into the box of what we would consider traditional boxing, it kind of throws you off for a second because your brain has to figure out, what am I looking at? And that you can kind of see that on Mayweather when Zab started doing the elbow taps and the stack to deck, because you could see Mayweather immediately started moving backwards.
Right.
Yeah, Mayweather's his whole understanding to the fight was lost when he seen that. From what I could see.
And that's kind of surprising to me because, both of you know, his father and his uncle fought, back in the days, plus, they went through the penal system. So I'm surprised that it kind of caught him off guard as much as it did, because I figured, okay, at least Roger or, his pops would have been like, showed him something, or at least said, this is what it is, even though you can't use it in the ring.
Right. But the thing is, it's very unorthodox. Even if you've seen it before, he didn't see it that night. So, he may have witnessed it a little bit. That's how you showed him a little something before. But the thing is that when you're in the mode and somebody's just boxing you, and the next thing you know, they're doing that, it can throw you even for the best fighter off. Especially a fighter like Mayweather, who has great fast reflexes and reaction time. Now you're getting him to overreact.
Indeed.
So now he wants to react to everything you're doing, and that's the way we throw him off.
Because that was like one of the first times I've seen Mayweather have complications in his offense. His defense is still pretty good, but his offense was non-existent. He wasn't throwing. That last 30 seconds of the 5th round was like, I don't even know what to do right now.
Yeah, he got backed up into the corner, and if you watch the tape again, he gets tagged at least twice, cleanly. The others he might have deflected them, but he caught 2 clean shots right after Zab did the first elbow tap. He came in, caught him. Mayweather moved back more into the corner. He did the elbow tap coming in and stacked the deck, and he caught him again. but then Mayweather kind of, went forward because he was trying to push him back. So that's when Zab ended up going backwards and wasn't doing any 52. But that split second for about 10 seconds of that fight, he had Mayweather puzzled.
That split second, I was nervous. I thought the fight was going to turn around into Zab's favor. Because Zab had success with it. I thought he would do it again. I don't know why he didn't go back to it, because I feel like when he did it, he really froze Mayweather. You know what I'm saying?
I think what's interesting about that is it's not the fact. Of course, I'm not in Zab Judah's head, but I'll say this: just like anybody who's practiced or studied 52 blocks, there's just a moment where your body takes over your mind and it does something, and then your mind catches up. So maybe Zab instinctively, because of that's how he might have fought in the street, that's what he did. Caught Mayweather off guard, caught him, but then he caught himself and, I'm boxing, I'm with Mayweather, I'm in the ring, and then it kind of dissipated.
Indeed, because he lost his cool. He was like, this is a street fight, fuck all this shit. You gonna stop hitting me.
Right.
You gonna cut that shit out.
You see, when he did it, he had like an attitude like he was in a street fight at that moment, too.
Yeah, but he had the little shoulder shrug while he was doing it, everything. You could see, it was almost as if he forgot where he was for a split second. He was like, we fighting. And he did his thing. And then you have to remember, too, in that fight, they didn't call a knockdown for Mayweather when earlier in the fight, his glove did touch the mat. So that's all going in Zab Judah's mind.
I wonder if he was aware of the fact that should have been a knockdown. It's funny because it's the base of the thing. I see so many people read the video saying that it wasn't. I see other people read the video saying that it was. I think it was.
What's the rule? Right. The rule is if any part of your body touches the mat, the sky of your feet.
Right. Some people are arguing that it didn't actually touch. It looked like it brushed it, didn't. I don't know what kind of thing.
That was a knockdown.
I've heard people say that Zab had stepped on his foot at that moment. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how true that is because I watched it on my phone. So I see the clip where someone showed me saying that Zab stepped on his foot at that moment. That's why it wasn't able to knock down.
Well, I think the interesting part of the whole conversation is the fact that the king of defense and one of the top 5 boxers of all time was bewildered by a style that is known by most people who might know somebody from the 70s. They might not know the style and practice it themselves, but they've seen it. So for someone on that elite level to be confused by what I would consider basic movement just comes to show you how relevant 52 blocks could actually be if there were actual fighters who were practicing it and implementing it, whether it's in boxing or MMA.
Right.
I once asked a question to a lot of the brothers, Daniel Marks and a couple other brothers. I want to ask the question, since everybody has an opinion on what 52 blocks is and what it's not, that night during that round was that 52 blocks. And everybody I've ever asked that question to always said, yes, that's 52 blocks right there. That's it right there. We see it. We see the elements. We see the style. We see his movements. Everything about his flow for that last 30 seconds. Plus, it didn't look like he lost it. His cool was gone. But when 52 cats, cool is gone, he did exactly what we would usually do. We marched right in. We marched in. We wasn't worried about his offense. We're not worried about none of that because none of that's going to land right now.
From the people that I asked, they said that it was an element of 52 more so than the people who watched it and copied it. They would do that more so than the actual 52 practitioners who know. So that would be, for instance, if your big brother was doing 52, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you see him do it, but he ain't teach it to you. But when you go fight, you pick up that other shot, and that's what a lot of people were doing that. That's what I was told. But a lot of people were doing it. So it was more of a continuation of how 52 evolved. Where that's why some of the old school cats might say, nah, that's not 52. But the cats that was around like in the 80s, 90s, they'll say, yeah, that was 52 because that's how they were doing it. You know what I'm saying?
I think what's interesting to add on to what Prince just said, I think, in my humble opinion, a lot of the stuff that people will see or say that they're doing at 52, I think a lot of the stuff that came from any of the young cats who were doing 52 in the 80s, I don't think they were getting a complete system. I do believe that they were getting parts of a system, or they were being shown parts of a system that would definitely help them in a fight. But I don't think a lot of people in the 80s were getting complete systems unless they were being taught by somebody that happened to be in their family or a very close friend. Because there are a lot of elements of 52 blocks. There's a lot of elements, and of course, you know all the different names, whether it's Stato, Comstock, the Shuffle. So in different regions, there's different things that work for different fighters. So that particular element of what they would call 52 is being handed down. So what you know as 52 in New York might look different than what people learned in the South or what people learned in Philly. But there's different elements of the fight game. So if one guy had a particular block with a hook that worked, that's what his bread and butter was. So he'd show that to somebody. Whereas somebody else in New York, whose style is what a lot of people would consider old school called bum rush, where you're shuffling your feet and you're cutting off the space while you're moving your hands for the distraction so that you can get an opening. And I think that's where you can say Zab Judah, you could see it. He was marching in, he was doing the hand movement for the disruption, and while Mayweather was trying to figure out what's going on with his hands, out shoots his hands with a strike, and that's how Mayweather got caught.
Mm-hmm. But to add on to that, even when you look at, that's Brooklyn style, right? You know, I felt had made it clear, you know, that's a Brooklyn style. You know, in Harlem, we got an uptown style, and it looks just slightly different. And I'm not talking about the uptown style that brothers, you know, say it's this and this and that. I'm just talking about the regular uptown style that we did when we was young, where we would work it off the parry and keep that high closed door.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's something that people outside of New York don't really understand a lot. There's a Brooklyn style of 52, there's a Harlem style of 52, there's a Queens style of 52, and that's just in relation to the flavor. So in Brooklyn, where it's something like never ran, never will, we're going to march you down. If you in Harlem, Harlem cats have a little bit more flair and style and flash to it. So they want to look pretty while they're making you look bad.
Mm-hmm.
In Queens, from what I can understand from some of the elders that I've spoken to and I've met, in Queens it was more slippery and trickery. It was almost as if I'm looking good and you caught up in my dance and you're not even seeing the shot at all because I'm coming in so close to you that I'm throwing elbows at you. I'm throwing my forearm on you. I'm pulling up your pants. You know, I'm making you trip yourself up. So there's, even in the region of New York, there's still different elements of 52 in each borough.
Indeed, even like just to add on real quick, the Queen style. When I came across it, they footwork looked like they're gliding as they coming in. It don't even look like they taking steps. It look like they glided and the ring is cut off real quick. Like it would. And by the time they get inside, you wonder how they got so close.
Right. And I think also a lot of people learn from watching people fight because remember a lot of these fights, you see how people putting out the camera phones now? It wasn't like that. It was more like when people were fighting, you knew they were to fight. Everybody came out to watch it. It wasn't just hold your mind your business so you get hurt. Everybody came to watch. And if I'm a little kid and I seen some dude do an elbow tap and then spin around and catch it with a back fist. Now, when I'm playing around with my friends, I'm going to mimic that myself. So a lot of people didn't have formal teachers. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people just witnessed and they picked it up.
Right.
Because it was a culture. You got to understand that this was a lot of it came from time when people weren't just quick to shoot you. It was very, like, even when I was growing up, it was very rare for everybody in the schools to have a gun and be a shooter. So in those days, there were a lot of fist fights. I mean, people were getting into fights for people looking at them wrong, bumping you, stepping on your shoe. Nowadays, they don't get into fights over those that often because they know they can turn into a gun fight. But back then, it would have been a street fight. So you see lots of cats fight all the time. You know what I'm saying? Every day in school, there was a fight. Every day on the way home, every day, every night, there was a fight. And it was always a fist fight. It wasn't always a gunfire. But like a lot of cats had to know how to fight. And you watched a lot of people in the street fight. So if you were young and we were watching dudes fight, you would say, oh, well, when he did this, when he did that. And then, when we slap box, because we slap box, we mimic the fights. And when we slap box, we would mimic the things that we see them do.
Right. One of the things that I wanted to touch on that Wise happened to mention was we end up talking to a lot of elders and a lot of historians about 52 blocks. And there's a lot of discussion about what's 52 and what's not 52. Once again, my humble opinion, if it works for you and you can incorporate it into whatever fighting style you have, it may be called a hybrid of 52, but when it comes to all 52 blocks or fatal across the board, there's just basic elements, which is elements of fighting that you have to understand. So you have to know what's a hook, what's a cross, what's a jab, what's an uppercut. Because if you don't understand that element of fighting, how can you understand how to block that movement? And it doesn't have to be in a physical block, whether it's stack the deck or closed door or the L. Because we all know if I move and you strike, that's a block because you missed, and I can counter off of that. So there's a lot of elements of 52 from any region where somebody has a particular style or a particular movement or they're very quick. So their closed door, open door to a stack the deck to an uppercut works for them. Might not work for somebody else, or because of their body type, their size, or their lack of speed. So they have to manipulate the move a bit to incorporate it for themselves. So that's why a lot of the elders might say, oh, that's not 52. Well, okay. I mean, is there any complete system of 52 that anybody can track back right now? Probably not. And if you can, that's a great thing. But the thing that we have to remember is the element of fighting is hitting and not getting hit. So once you're doing that, if you're able to do a spin move or a duck down or a change level and add a block and a strike, who's to say it's not 52?
Right. I think that a lot of people, they get caught up in their ways and they lose the experimenting aspect of themselves as they get older. And you see it not just at 52, you see it like in boxing. You'll have dudes who say, oh, what Manny Pacquiao is doing is not boxing because he does things a lot differently. But, I mean, he's a 5 division world champion in boxing. He's obviously doing something right. And then even like you'll find all the cats in the Gracies who say what these dudes doing in mixed martial arts. That's not jiu-jitsu. That's not Gracie. They can break themselves. So I think a lot of cats don't respect the evolution of it because it's not what they traditionally learned. I mean, I've had people who say, you're throwing a hook wrong because based on how you place it, whether your thumbs are up or your thumbs are down in the hook. And different schools of thought might argue about which way is the better way. At the end of the day, I think it does come down to what's effective. It does come down to certain principles. Like when it comes to 52, there is a certain principle that has to be there. Like you cannot be getting hit with a whole bunch of punches and things that you do in 52. When the basis of it is that you have to have good defense. You cannot only do traditional blocks and then you mostly do. You have to be, able to catch punches at different ways from different angles. One of the elements of Jiu-Jitsu that's important is that you have to, even when you're off balance, still be on balance. And if your balance is completely off, then I can say, okay, well, you can't really call that 32 if you're balance off. You know what I'm saying? Those principles have to be there. But other than that, you are going to evolve your body type and your style.
And I think one key word that you said there that's real important is evolution. Because if we look at, for example, if we look at UFC 1 and we look at UFC 207, you can see the evolution of mixed martial arts from 1 to 207. So that's why I say when it comes to 52 blocks, what somebody might have known in the 60s or the 70s, which was an efficient system, efficient style, how many knockouts, how many wins. We're in 2000 now. So in the era that we're in, there had to be some sort of evolution because people who would be learning what most people or elders would consider 52 blocks, they're learning it, but remember, they also know boxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, taekwondo, judo, tai chi, wing chun. So even if they learn 52, when they incorporate it in what they already know, it's going to look slightly different just because of how versed a fighter is now compared to somebody in the 70s or the 60s. Because a lot of the people in the 70s and the 60s that knew 52 blocks, they'll tell you, oh, I did some boxing, or I did karate, or I did Shotokan. So there's something about their 52 that has a hybrid element to it, but it was predominantly 52. Now, the fighters that know 52 now, they know 52 blocks to the aspect of the defense, but then they're versed in other styles. So their 52 will look like a hybrid because it doesn't look like what somebody from the 60s or 70s would call a pure style of 52 blocks. So that's why I said that word evolution that you said is a very important word. Because if it doesn't evolve, it dies.
It definitely is an important word because you can always look at, let's just look at the evolution from capoeira into breakdancing, from breakdancing to 52 blocks. So we're looking at Stato to Jailhouse to what we got now is 52 blocks. We have those influences from capoeira, from breakdancing, because a lot of dudes that I talked to during this documentary were b-boys. Okay. And that was crazy. They were all b-boys. You see the capoeira in it. You see the Stato in it. The Stato really looks like to me is the slick movements and the tight boxing. The Stato, from what Kashan told me, stands for state boxing. They shorten it Stato. But that's really state boxing. Now, when you get that Jailhouse Rock needed that Stato on it so it could smooth out some edges because everything about Jailhouse was rough. It was break something, hit something, everything was rough about it. It didn't have too much smoothness on it. So what happens as we evolve down to what 52 blocks is and all the influences on 52 blocks, you're like, oh, now I see the movement. Now I see what he's doing. So when we look at Mayweather and Zab, what we start to notice is what's the first thing he did? He did what Mayweather does to everybody else in the game, and that's he took his hands from him. He no longer had the ability to go on the offensive. He was looking good, feeling good, fight was fine. Then he didn't know what to do. He didn't know how to stop him from doing it because he marched right in. And he made sure he was covered up, he slipped, he stayed on the inside, and while his arms was moving for the distraction, he shot that joint down the middle. So what we're looking at is definitely brothers that come from the street, definitely styles that come from prison, that was brought in, these styles are brought into the prisons, and they're perfected. Because, during the documentary, I explained how, that's our modern day style is. When these brothers go inside, they don't have any women, so that's the monk part. You know what I'm saying? All they do is train all day, eat food, train all day, back into it. So all these brothers is doing is perfecting their style for the next 20 years. Or the next 10 years, next 5-year bid. Because a lot of them is doing either state or federal time. So them having this time on their hands and taking their styles through this stuff, you hear all the war stories, you hear the training stories from brothers like Saladin, how he explained, actually Divine, how he explained they used to jab through the prison bars.
Right.
And all of this just has me looking at, Shaolin got the same type of stuff. They got unorthodox ways of training in order for your body to do different things.
But now let's be specific. That what you were just speaking about in terms of the 52 Blocks practitioners who were locked up, who were punching through the jail bars, that was specifically done for accuracy. Because obviously you don't want to hit the bars to break your knuckles, so you have to be able to pinpoint your strike, and that's how they train to do that, by punching through the bars.
And that's actually something that brother told me when I was younger as well. I remember there was a brother around my neighborhood, and we used to practice, and he used to tell me, yo, you need the accuracy, you gotta punch through the gate. We didn't have a bar, but he used to do it with the regular gates, and he showed us that because that's what he used to do. And we used to do that. See, I remember in those days there weren't a whole bunch of schools that you can go and practice and spar. So even in the street, brothers had to come up with different ways of training. Not everybody had a heavy bag in their house. Not everybody had a speed bag in their house. So when we trained in the street, we had to come up with different ways of doing it. Whether it's just tying the string up in a tennis ball, and all those innovative things you see people do now.
That was good rolling back in the day.
Yeah, like rolling under the dip bars.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? These are the things that people had to do.
Yeah.
To make up. I even wear stop boxing because everybody had boxing gloves or protective gear. So in order for them to spar without actually knocking each other out all the time, brothers would stop box.
How the question will always remain for me though is how much better Zab Judah's career would have gone if he would have kept up his training, because we all know Zab likes to party a lot, so his training always fluctuated. It never stayed up on that elite level where it should have been. But besides that, imagine if you'd have incorporated any element consistently of 52, because both of you can attest, when Mike Tyson first came in, even though he had a great trainer that trained him in the art of boxing and the combination, you could still see elements of 52 Blocks in Tyson's first 20 to 22 fights. Whether it was the changing levels, whether it was when you threw the punch, you got the elbow and the forearm to complete the trifecta. But there were things that he still did because his mind and his body had been trained in elements of 52 when he was younger. So even though he was now traditionally trained in the art of boxing, you could still see elements of it when, not to say he lost his mind, but when he stopped thinking about fighting in the ring and allowed his body to do what it needed to do, you could also see elements of 52 Blocks, especially in the early Mike Tyson fight.
Well, I think also, it's also that one thing, and you bring me to another point. Part of 52, one thing that also goes with 52 is the temperament. And there's a certain street temperament that goes with the style. Now, what makes it beautiful also damages you, because these were like Zab Judah and Mike Tyson, what made them who they are was their temperament. And a lot of their temperament comes from the streets. And that's also what kept them in the streets. So it kind of backfired a lot on it. It blew them up because it gave them something exciting to watch, but it also gave them a lot of clutches, a lot of bad habits that they carried over outside the ring. Zab Judah, his attitude, you know what I'm saying, and his approach to fighting, his whole attitude, the whole Brooklyn attitude, Mike Tyson coming to the ring with no socks on, all that, even Hector Camacho, coming through flashing, talking like a lot of crap, all those street, those are all street elements, and even those are elements of it too, talking the crap, like a lot of people, boxing critics and, commentators, they all the time they say, oh, this person is showing off, or because they're dancing, but they don't understand that 52 is a lot of it is psychological warfare, and a lot of it is, if I'm trying to fight you and I'm trying to knock your head off, and I'm seeing you do things like dropping your hands, dancing, smiling, laughing at me when I miss, they don't understand that that is part of the fight. Because now I'm bringing doubt into you, because part of 52 blocks is to bring doubt into your opponent, to make you doubt yourself. And you see cats doing things like that, doing things like dropping their hands, doing things like spinning around, doing things like taking the eyes off of you and still being able to hit you, doing things like, breakdancing in the middle of the fight. A lot of people say, oh, well, he's just showing off. But they don't understand that you're getting you're not showing off, you're staying in your rhythm. And you're also having fun, and you're throwing them with their rhythm. Because just as we're watching all that, the person you're fighting is watching you do all that. And it's confusing, it's cunning, it throws you off, it stops you. I mean, even like Anderson Silva, like a lot of people, criticize him when he fought Chris Weidman. And they say, oh man, he was playing around, but they don't understand what he was doing. He wanted Chris Weidman to keep the fight turning up and not do wrestling. So that's why he kept on, playing around, getting Chris Weidman to box. It backfired on him at the end, but the whole point is, it's not just showing off. It's not disrespecting your opponent. See, that's what they think. They think it's showing off and disrespecting. No, it's not. It's part of the fight. It's getting in the fighter's mind and making him keep the fight the way you wanted to keep it. You know what I'm saying? Making him slow down at the hit, because if he slows down to watch you, he's not throwing as much punches. When I drop my hands and I start moving my head so you hit me in my face, guess what you're not going to do? You're not going to swing in my face. Because when you do swing and you miss, you're going to slow down. And once you have doubt, your speed even decreases. You know what I'm saying?
I think to expound a little bit further on that when it comes to 52 blocks, because we hear a lot of people talk about what's real 52, what's not 52, this style, this element. I think the three basic elements that when you're looking at 52 blocks will help you understand if what you're seeing is real 52. The first element is deception. No matter what a 52 practitioner is doing, it's the deception and the trickery of making the other person think something else, get caught up in what they're doing, and the other element that always is something in the back of my mind is angle. Because it's not about who hits the hardest, and it's not about who hits the fastest. It's who hits the most precise. So the element of angle, the element of deception, and then the element that you were just talking about, Prince, is your mentality. No fighter can fight angry and win consistently. I'm not saying you can't win, but to win consistently is very hard. You have to have the mentality of calm. One of our teachers, and you can attest to this, Prince, our teacher, Ramel Scott, always used to tell us, when you do 52 blocks, you have to do it as if you're walking. You don't think about walking. You don't think about doing 52. You just do it. You keep your mentality calm. You do what you need to do to make the person dance your dance. And once they're dancing your dance, you already know the next 3, 4, 5 moves. You got them.
Indeed, that way of thinking definitely is what was showed in the last seconds of that round. It shows you that he did it without thinking. May have been a little angry, threw him off his game, so he didn't know to keep it up. Keep him guessing his defense because he don't know what to do right now. He didn't grasp that concept. But at least he showed him that there's a couple tools you ain't got.